Hello my lovely Pisces, welcome to your reading for August 2020. My name's Elizabeth Ashley, the Secret Healer. Welcome to my channel, list of essential oils and their uses, and I am going to do a reading for August 2020 using my cards, the Tongue of the Trees cards. So these are essential oil oracle cards, and they are designed to bypass the conscious mind and talk to the unconscious. So I've had a look at the astrology and I can see there are definite opportunities and definite challenges ahead this month. And if ever there was a month to be able to be prepared, to need to be ahead of the game, it's this one. So I'm going to draw you 13 cards and then I will turn the screen round and show you your reading. But then what I'll also do is show you some slides with recipes that I've made for you with the correct dilutions and blending to be able to exploit these opportunities for you. So, cards. What should we do for Pisces? It's interesting. You are the last one to be done today, no offence. And same cards keep coming out. Clove. Number 1, I'm going to do 13 cards. German camomiles. Number 2, benzoin. I think that's the first time that one's been out. One of my favourites. Oh, myrrh. That is one of my favourites. Lavender. Oh, this is very tranquil medicine you've got here. Petitgrain, consciousness. Every single reading, cedarwood, Virginian, every single reading. Mandarin. Rose geranium. That's 9. So number 10 is Angelica, root. Number 11, sweet fennel. Oh, ylang ylang. That's usually the card that says how you're feeling at the moment. Are you being a little saucy right now? Nice, delightful, relaxed medicine, followed by insights of tea tree. Interesting. So interesting. There's lovely reading there and lovely recipes coming out of there. So just to tell you a little bit more about the cards so that you get some context. So as I say, Gergely Helodi and I originally designed these. He had already got a set that he was selling in Hungarian to kinesiologists. So he's an aromatherapist and he was selling to people who had no experience of aromatherapy whatsoever, but who wanted to be able to tap into the energy of the essential oils, and they sold very, very well, like they sell very, very well over here. But he asked me to help him with the translations, which I did. And when I started to listen to the plants, oddly, they started to speak in poems to me. I can tell you some plants are very good poets, some are not so great. But they talk as if the plant is talking to you about the medicine that they can bestow. And the reading that we're doing today is the Ring of the Trees reading. And I had originally designed it as a way to tap into understanding why somebody was in physical pain. So I am a clinical aromatherapist. I'm also a medical astrologer, and I am a pain practitioner, and I teach other people, other aromatherapists, to treat chronic pain. So what usually happens when a patient comes to us is they will have been through to see the doctor. They may have gone to have an MRI and an X-ray, and probably had lots of analgesics, opiates, and still in pain. And the doctor says, I'm really sorry, I just haven't got any answers. And the doctor will be the first one to tell you he rarely has answers for chronic pain. And his answer is to say, I think it must be just stress. To which the patient goes, seriously? That's your answer? So they come to me a bit angry, and I have to say, you know what, he's probably right. But my job is to go deeper in and try to understand what was the psychological root that meant that we had these issues in the tissues. Where has that trauma come from? How is that playing out in the physical body? So the Ring of the Trees was designed to tap into that, as I say, to go past the conscious mind where we say, oh, you're in pain, you need lavender. To go right back and to spiral backwards anti-clockwise to the root of the problem, the trauma. And of course, if you think of something like PTSD, somebody has fear, but then that morphs over time, doesn't it? So they have flashbacks, and not only do they have fear, but they become depressed and anxious and angry, and their memory starts, and it gets confused. Yeah, so that first symptom, that first cause, no longer looks like the symptom. And often with physical pain, you can see something like PTSD or trauma playing out. What I found though is if I read the cards forward as if the plants were growing, the trees evolving, so is your month. And I can see, right, I can see the challenges and the opportunities, and the plants speak to me to say, well, this is what I think we can offer to help you through these months. This month is a difficult month. There's no doubt about it. There's good stuff and there's bad stuff. So the good stuff is that the eclipses have gone. I'm a Cancerian, and these eclipses were in Cancer and Capricorn, and I say, see ya, don't hurry back. You know, we've had startings and finishings and explosions, and it's been hard, you know. So that's gone. Mercury retrograde, finished. We can buy a new computer, we can go traveling, we can expect to be understood rather than all of this miscommunication all of the time. Venus is no longer retrograde, that has gone direct, so we can get our hair cut. But we can also wear gold hats. But that's Venus and Mercury move very, very quickly. They're quickly moving planets, so they hurtle through the horoscope this month, and they create some really lovely aspects, some interesting angles, which we can really exploit here to get some good advantages on our way forward. But also, where they are no longer going retrograde, Mars is preparing to do so, and through most of August it will go into shadow before it begins its retrograde. So planets don't really have a bad side or a good side, they just are, you know. So we have ambition and drive from Mars, but we also have aggression. It just is. So as it starts to go into shadow, we lose that beam of motivation, we lose that drive of ambition. But as it's starting, before it reaches that, it goes through some harsh aspects. So the first is that it comes into a very difficult alignment with the black moon. And you go, what's the black moon? Let me tell you in a minute. I'll tell you when I turn the cards round. But also it comes into a harsh alignment with your 11th house, which is where Saturn's retrograde, Pluto's retrograde, Jupiter's retrograde. And that's already playing out on a global scale with coronavirus and lockdown and all of that stuff. And, you know, so on the microcosm and the macrocosm, you're having your own lessons in the 11th house of Capricorn. So that's really hard. It was hard enough, but now Mars says, I think I'll join that party. And so we've got a nasty aspect there as well. So this is going to be hard almost all the way through August. So it's really helpful to be able to manipulate our mindset, to be able to tackle that. And so we have your tools in front of me. Let me turn around the camera, and I'll show you reading. And then after that, I'll put some slides up that show you your recipes that I would recommend based on correct dilution, how the oils blend together, and to get the really best opportunities from your reading. Hi Pisces. Right, I am very excited to get into your reading now I've seen it laid out, because when I compare it to what's going on in astrology, it is fascinating. So let's first of all just show you the layout. Also, I just want to give a little bit of an apology. Next door are having a new kitchen built, and there's a lot of sawing and banging and stuff, so we might have to stop, but hopefully we can just get on without without it. So this is your first card. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Remember, we're seeing how it develops, like the rings of the tree. 10, 11, and then how you evolve through the month. 12, 13. Fascinating, right? So let me just quickly tell you about your astrology first, and then we'll overlay the cards. So right at the beginning of the month, we have a full moon in Aquarius, which is your 12th house, which happens on the third of the month. So if you think that the 12th house is, I would say, unseen things, it's your internal world, but also a lot of things that have no form. So things like connection with nature. Actually, daft as it seems, like how we've laid these cards out now for aromatherapy. So we can't quite explain why they mean these things, but everybody experiences the same thing when they use them. Aromatherapy is a science and an art, and that part of the art of aromatherapy very much 12th house. So that's the kind of feeling that we're going to get right through the month. When you have a full moon, it kind of shines a light on that area of your life. So, but I think that this is going to be peacefulness, tranquility, get in touch with nature. But we'll look at that closer in a minute. What I'm interested in is how much stuff is happening in your 6th house. So your 6th house is your day-to-day, well, the way that you earn your living, the way that you live your life. But if you think that the 6th house is ruled by Virgo. Virgo is health. So the 6th house is health, but also Virgo, it likes routine and regimes and making systems that work, you know. Now you have got ever such a lot happening in your 6th house. The Mercury will go into Leo on the 4th, which is the 6th house. Then Vesta will join it on the 11th, and then there'll be a new moon on the 18th. All of those in this 6th house. So I do think that you are going to be thinking about your health. Then there's a lot going on in your 11th house, which is Capricorn. Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, they are all there and have been there since last month in retrograde. And then also Mars will create an interesting conjunction to them, as well as an interesting conjunction with the black moon. So let's talk about that stuff after. Let's talk about all of this stuff that's happening in the 6th house first, because if we look at your very first card, clove, on a physical level, for a clove is antimicrobial, antibiotic, antibacterial. It would be, it's one of the main oils that we would choose as an antibiotic. So if we catch a bug, then we know that clove, because of its high levels of eugenol, is one of the most pervasive oils we can get for triggering an immune response to send off the macrophages, the white blood cells, the warrior blood cells, to surround the pathogen and to overcome it. Fantastic. But it also has an unseen dynamic that happens, which is that it gives you very good insights into why did I catch this bug, you know. So if you go on to buy your cards, you'll see there's a poem that says it gets rid of doubts and cynicism. So for example, if you have, I'm going to say hormonal issues because it looks hormonal, this reading. So maybe you feel very you have really bad PMT this month, or it's painful periods, or maybe you catch a cold. You kind of have the feeling that something else is going on underneath the surface. Why am I so stressed this month? What other stuff is playing out? So I am really ratty and I'm responding to stuff in a negative way. But how did I feel about that negative stuff in the first place? You know, Chloe's very good at being able to hone in on that. And I think all of this 6th house stuff will immediately make you think, right, well, clearly I'm stressed about A, B, C, so I'm going to do X, Y, Z to put it right. And your focus all the way through the month is going to be on, I'm going to look after myself better, you know. what am I going to do daily? Maybe you might think I'm going to do some yoga, get on my bike, or just drink more water or whatever. But I think that the focus is going to be, I'm going to think about this mind-body connection, because I don't feel great. I really don't feel great. And I do think something else is going on. And when we put it in this context, all of this says getting in touch with the emotions to me. Because look what we've got. Right, so are we stressed? Well, if we are, then good job that we've got German chamomile to hand to soothe us. Yeah? What's interesting is that's almost opposite to what she would say. She would say, well, okay, Sarah, Sarah, whatever will be, will be. You know, she sings all of the time. But that's from the conscious point of saying, right, well, I'm just going to let it go, you know, let it go, all of that stuff. But I want you to think right back to, did you read the quote that came up at the beginning of the video about the sun doctor? If you didn't, go back and read it. Because I do think that's everybody's medicine this month. We're being called to consciously look at our unconscious mind. Strange way of putting it, but of actually going deeper and saying what's going on. You know, I do think that as a society in general is kind of looking at this virus now and saying, yeah, but there's other stuff going on. And whether we say that's because they're trying to devalue our money, or that there was a manufactured virus, or that nature is taking hold. I think everybody thinks there is more to this virus than meets the eye. And it's that kind of feeling. But in your context, it says, I just need to get calm. You know, whatever's playing out, I know that my emotions are playing a part in that. So maybe I don't know, maybe you think, well, I'm not going to have caffeine, or I'm not going to have sugar. I have this feeling of going consciously quieter inside. And I think immediately, whatever you decide to do, you start to feel better. And you see that as evidence of, yeah, definitely there's a connection. There's a connection here. And so I have to really work hard at going deeper than that. Look at the spiritual cards you've got. That's a sacred incense. That's a sacred incense. That's a sacred incense. That's a sacred oil. And then you've got lots of fruits. So I do think lots of meditation, but it doesn't feel like sitting down and... yeah, it doesn't feel like sitting down and meditating. It feels like trying to understand yourself, as I say, through things like the cards, maybe tarot cards, through astrology, where you actually have to physically sit down and say, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to work this, you know. And this is an interesting card, because on the physical level, that says skin disorders, or maybe coughs and colds to me, but I don't think that's what it means. I think it means that you suddenly realise that you feel there's a level up, you know, that suddenly you are transcending. You can look, oh yes, that's what I feel like. I feel like you're standing above your body and you're looking down and you're going, I can just see the pattern. I can see the pattern now that I do every single time. And if I think back to times where I've been ill, I can see the specific pattern that plays out. So what does that mean? Let me see if I can put that into a physical context. Okay, so okay, so let's think about chronic pelvic pain syndrome. That's a very strange and complex disease, and for a long time it's gone undiagnosed or misdiagnosed because it falls into so many different areas. So for example, the symptoms of chronic pelvic pain are problems having a wee, problems having a poo, pain sitting down, pain that gets worse when you exercise, pain that is worse when you have sex, all of those things. So the difficulty with the way that medicine's set up is that you might have gone to a urologist and they would have said, Yeah, but you don't really sit in my area. So then maybe you would have been sent to the gynecologist and they go, I don't know, that doesn't sit in my area either. And then you go into a bowel spectrum specialist and that doesn't really fit in. What they're starting to understand now is A, there's a cross section between them, but B, actually none of the things come from an organic disorder. There's usually some kind of trauma underlying them. And so, for example, there can be a hormonal trigger that makes it worse at the end of the month. And so if you've been drinking lots of caffeine, then your pain receptors are inflamed, and then you are more responsive to stress, and then you have a pain problem just at the end of the month. So when you say to the doctor, I've got this pain at the end of the month, they go, nonsense, how does that work out? But then sitting down and really thinking about, right, I'm cutting this out, I'm cutting that out, I'm really concentrating on this, I'm going to start meditating on that. What I would say to you, because I am a pain specialist, hence why I could explain that to you, is A and B doesn't necessarily always make C. So just because you've cut the caffeine out doesn't mean to say that's what made the difference. It could be other things that happen. So make sure you're really documenting what you're doing. Make yourself, yeah, you could make yourself a journal, but I'm like a pain log, or, you know, a diet log, or whatever you're doing, and really note down everything. So today I exercised, and when I exercised, I did yoga. Today I did swimming. Today I did, you know, and look at all the different details, and then look down at the overview and say, look, the day I had backache, that was a swimming day. Oh, that was a swimming day. Oh, that's really weird. That was a swimming day. You know, and or maybe food combining is another thing that comes up. So, for example, people come to me with migraine and they might say, well, I'll say, do you have any food tolerances? Well, no, not really. Everything sets me off. But then when you've written down you had a cooked breakfast, you can see that maybe you were 30% intolerant to sausages because of the additives in it, 30% are intolerant to red sauce, and 30% intolerant to eggs, for example, oversimplified. But maybe the day that you had brown sauce instead of red sauce, you didn't get a migraine, but the red sauce just tipped you over the edge. You became 90% intolerant as opposed to 60% intolerant. And it's that food combining that's the problem. So just making that journal and logging makes all the difference. So here what I feel is like we're up in the sky looking down, like getting a bird's eye view of what's going on because we've categorized it so well. And it's soothing because suddenly you feel like, well, I'm getting somewhere, you know, I might actually have an end to my pain, but also, what's the word? It feels zen to be able to, and comforting, you know, it becomes like a comfort blanket. Today I can look and I can say, yeah, oh my God, I did have a headache, and I can see this trigger, you know, it feels like finally you're getting to the beginning of this stuff. And remember, all through the month, you're supported by it, internal world, you know, the planets are shining a light on your psychology, on the stuff. 12th, not so much like the moon in the 12th, because it's quite happy there, it's that kind of internal. But if you had like the sun in the 12th, you would have anxieties, really bad anxieties. That's what happens just before you get to your birthday. So whilst you won't feel anxious, you might start to get an insight into what is making you anxious, and if that makes you anxious, is that playing out in the physical body? Because clove is definitely issues in the tissues. And what do we have when that happens? Suddenly it's into our conscious mind, and when it's in our conscious mind, we've got the sun doctor, haven't we? We can put these routines into place. We're not flying dragons anymore. We know the way out to hell and how to stay out of it. Conscious, conscious, conscious. And what are we followed by? We couldn't have a better oil because we've got the willpower to carry on and to keep adhering to the regimen, really, and keep working the magic, working the medicine over and over again. And after a while, it's going to feel so much easier, and it's going to feel like a game. Now, I love the feeling that mandarin brings. I always say this, it's like sitting in Raffles in Singapore. We're drinking our beautiful cup of tea, and everyone's wearing beautiful pressed clothes and lovely hats, and it's chit chat, it's lovely, everyone's having a lovely little giggle, and it's very refined, and everybody's looking at you and going, well, she's like the swan, you know. I mean, I feel like at the beginning of the month, maybe you felt really poorly, and you're starting to feel like the swan, where you're paddling underneath, but everyone can see that you are incredibly graceful, you know. It's making it, you're working, what's the word I'm trying to say? I feel like maybe you've been to the doctors lots of different times, and if you are in pain, for example, probably you feel really not listened to, not taken seriously. And everyone around you can see, to begin with, it's just like, oh God, she's got her book out again. But people can see, oh my goodness, she's moving more easily. She's more graceful. She's not snapping as much. And you can see the physical difference. You're still paddling hard underneath, but the swan is much more graceful and finding life very much more easy. Now, this here, again, is an interesting card to read because we have equilibrium, you know, things are starting to feel more in balance. And if you don't know much about aromatherapy, I would say to you, of every oil that you should buy, this should always be your first, because it's so good at being able to lift worries away. Doesn't ask you to interact with the worries, it doesn't ask you to go through the pain, it just takes it away. Particularly very good for hormonal stuff. There is a lot of hormonal stuff here to me. That's hormonal, that's hormonal, that's hormonal, that's hormonal, that's hormonal. I do think for everybody else, I can say on this date, something's happening, in this date, something's happening on this date. For you, I'm saying be forearmed, look at your calendar. When are you due on? Yeah. Or if it's menopausal, just look and say, right, where am I expecting the triggers, and have it made ready. I will make you the recipe, have it ready for you, because as the month goes on, you're kind of going to get sucked into these feelings of pain and misery and lose. If you're not careful, you'll lose your track and forget the reading. So by physically making the blend and putting it aside, you go, right, okay, I am prepared for the moment that it comes. And if you do that, Angelica is such an interesting card in that position, because that is absolutely initiation. It's like the effect that you have is so radical, you get drawn in and think, I've got to understand more about this. How did that work? Because let me tell you, 30 years on, after using essential oils, and even more so using these cards, I go, how did that work? That's amazing how well that worked. And I always say the stem here of the Angelica, that's the cusp between Pisces, the old life, and Aries, the new. And once you pass that cusp, there is no going back. But you go from somebody who's quite developed to somebody to the toddler. So this is the beginning of wanting to learn something more. And you know what the toddler's like? Their hands are into everything. You'll be like, I'm going to experiment with everything. I want to smell everything. I'm going to try and read everything. And you'll be exhausting to everybody around you. It'll be like having a 2-year-old, because you'll be so excited by it. But you're like, well, I know now. I know what I've got to do. And I know how powerful this can be. And even if it doesn't work as well next time, I understand that maybe it's not me that's done it right, you know. I need to learn more. I need to get more into it. And what's interesting then is you have a very interesting card from a hormonal point of view and an esoteric point of view. Let's talk about the hormones first. Sweet fennel mimics estrogen, not as if it's like a phytoestrogen. So it's incredibly good for balancing and raising levels of estrogen. So in terms of things like going back to, it's funny how I didn't deliberately do this, going back to the chronic pelvic pain scenario, the pain receptor gets activated when the progesterone levels come up. Progesterone and pain have a very intricate relationship. But worry and estrogen have an interesting relationship. Worry is that estrogen is the molecule of worry. So when estrogen levels drop, then we have more concerns, more anxieties. So the two together in chronic pelvic pain, you get, I feel more anxious and the pain goes up. But which chicken and egg, you know, what happened? On either side, sweet fennel says, well, we can settle that. But also it's very good as a digestive oil. So whilst you wouldn't normally see fennel playing out in hormonal recipes, you would see ylang ylang, geranium, rose, chamomile. Sweet fennel is very good, but one must be very careful if one is pregnant for obvious reasons. But also then, imagine, I always say it's like the marathon, that you've run the marathon, you've trained to get to 26 miles, but at 25 you can feel yourself flagging and you think, oh, I just can't go anymore. Sweet fennel steps in and goes, of course you can, come on, I'll carry you over the line. And I do think in this position here, you almost exhaust yourself by getting so excited by all the things that you're going to do. But then when your next period comes round, or your next brush with pain, or whatever the condition is that you are experiencing, you will kind of go, I just can't be bothered. I'm a bit sick of it now. I'm a bit bored of it. So if that happens, sweet fennel says yes, but this is the important time. This is the difference between understanding and not understanding. It's succeeding and not succeeding. And look, we got this beautiful ylang ylang. Now the 12th card here and the first card usually marry up. So I think at the beginning of the month, you're going to be feeling lovely and happy, but you're going to come through to a feeling of like, I really feel richly rewarded by everything that's gone on this month. I feel like I'm starting to get really good insights into what's going on, and it's delicious. And I do think, I mean, for fear of sounding like a bad salesperson, if this resonates with you, you couldn't get a better tool than these cards. I know I created them, but I cannot tell you how intrigued by how clever they are. You know, you draw your card each day, you interact with an essential that usually you wouldn't even have anticipated, and it makes a difference. And when you read the poem back, it is like the nature speaking to you, and you think, well, how did you know that? That is exactly how I feel today. So this is really, really helpful tool. But any kind of essential oils, any kind of, but definitely start documenting. If you're making a regime, make a log and look really carefully at it, because I think that you're going to be really excited about what you see. And definitely, you know, everything that's happening with Capricorn, you've got Saturn, Jupiter and Pluto all retrograde in Capricorn. That's the 11th house. That's how people see you, the world at large, you know. And I think everybody's going to look and say, God, she's really made a difference. I don't think I could have stood the levels of pain that she's been in, or the amount of kickbacks that she's had from the doctors. And what she's done is really clever. And I'm amazed and really pleased to see it. You know, I think that people will be really impressed by you. Impressed. I'm excited. Will you leave me some comments, please? I want to know. And actually, I'll say it in the next little end bit as well. But if you need some help with this, have a look on my blog. I do a free 30-minute consultation. We can have a chat, or of course you can pay me to do an hour-long consultation, and we'll work out exactly what needs to be done. Remember, I am a pain practitioner, as well as being somebody who's lived through the pains of a great deal of respiratory medicine. So, and hormones, well, I need to go there. But I'm sure that I can give you some help. So if you think, right, I am starting to feel like I do need a bit of extra support, you, of all the signs, I can really help this month. So hopefully you found that interesting and helpful. If you would like to get your own Tongue of the Trees box of cards, obviously I'd love you to do that. It pays for my work here. I'm going to put a link to my website below, and you'll be able to see where to be able to get those from. And also, if you want to go more deeper into the reading and start to understand the medical astrology and the elements, the Ayurvedic and the traditional Chinese medicine, as well as the chakras and the blending, you might also want to buy the knowledge base that goes with it. The knowledge base is a digital platform. It's like an online set of videos where I talk you through absolutely every aspect of the different essential oils. So there's around about 40 videos. It's a separate purchase, but obviously it's an immediate download if you want to be able to access that. So thank you. If you also want to have your own reading, please do check out my website, thesecrethealer.co.uk, and book yourself an hour-long consultation, and I will do you your own reading. For the meantime, I'm going to say goodbye. Say goodbye to the sun goddess, because next month it will be the Melissa, the goddess, the priestess that officiated at Demeter Kaur's festival of the autumn in ancient Greece, the mysteries of Eleusis. See you in Melissa land.
There will be comments, and if you want to, you can send a comment and say like hi's to Mum and Dad, right? And then the link to the next video will be in the description below underneath the video. So bye.